Just a minute. Okay. So welcome to the course Theory of Computation. Let me discuss about the outline of the course. So this course will introduce three major topics. First part is, in fact, in the reverse order, formal languages and automata theory. This is the first part that we'll be discussing. Then we'll talk about computability theory, and then the complexity theory. So the complexity theory will classify problems with respect to their degree of hardness in terms of the computational resources, that is space complexity and time complexity, that is required to solve the problem. So once the problem is solvable, then for a particular model, particular computer, so we'll talk about the mathematical model of computation model, that is called model of computer. So given a model of computer or model of computation, once the problem is solved, then we talk about how much resources this problem is taking. So that is complexity theory. So the resources will be in terms of time as well as space. The next part is computability theory. So this addresses a more fundamental issues. So given a problem, whether it is solvable in the first place, if it is solvable, then only you can talk about the time complexity and space complexity. So first thing, we have to see that which kind of problems are solvable and which are not solvable. So we'll see this part. And the third part is the theory of formal languages and automata. So this investigates mathematical models of computation and classifies them with respect to their computational power. So we'll see different models and what kind of problem they can solve, what they cannot solve. So given this model, we can talk about the problem solvable by this particular model. So these models are used to answer questions and prove results in both computability and complexity theory. So once the model is given, we can talk about whether the problem is solvable or not solvable. And if it is solvable, then what will be the complexity of the algorithm. So these are the basically three parts. So you can see so this is first part. We'll talk about formal languages and automata theory. That means computability theory and complexity theory. So these are the basically three parts of the course. And then the model of computation. In this part, we talk about finite automata, and then the language, then we talk about regular expression, context-free grammars. Then we talk about another model called push-down automata. And then relationship between these models, like finite automata are equivalent to regular expressions. Then we talk about determinism and non-determinism in computations. Limitation of the different models. So we'll talk about pumping lemma for showing that a language is not regular. So those kind of things. Then computability theory, we'll discuss about recursive and recursively enumerable languages. And we'll talk about Turing machines and Turing computable functions. Then we'll talk about Church-Turing thesis. Then decidability and reducibility. So we'll see what those are. So decidability means the problem is now solvable by Turing machines. Then once this part is covered, then we talk about complexity theory, time and space hierarchy theorems, polynomial time computations, we talk about P versus NP, NP completeness, and P space completeness. So this is basically the overview of the course. Hey, 1 minute. Okay. So the lecture plan that we have, so we have 1.5 hour lectures. This is Monday and Tuesday and Friday. So this so we'll have 42 hours of lectures. So first lecture we'll talk about introduction, basic concepts. Then automata we'll talk about DFA, NFA. Then regular expression and regular languages that we'll talk about in terms of automata. Then finite state machines with output. So the DFA, NFA that we'll talk about automata. So there is no output. So only thing that they will get into the accept state or reject state. And then we talk about two machines, Moore machines and Mealy machines. And we'll see how they are equivalent, conversion of Moore machine to Mealy machines and vice versa. So once this finite automata DFA is over, then we talk about push down automata and the language that recognizes context-free languages. Then we'll see the grammar which generated this thing called context-free grammars. And then we'll see some non-context-free languages also. So which is outside the power of push down automata. So we'll talk about linear bounded automata, and then that will do the non-context-free languages. Then we talk about Turing machines, decidability, reducibility. Then we talk about recursion theory. Then we talk about complexity theory. So this is basically lecture plan. So I have uploaded the the course handout in the Moodle. So this course has a TA, teaching assistant, and this is Pooja Goyal. So I think after maybe next class she'll join. And then now you should check the Moodle for lecture notes and other details. And the examination will be conducted in Gradescope. So we'll discuss in detail later on. And the textbook, that will be required textbook or reference books. Michael Sipser is one of the books that will follow, that is Introduction to Theory of Computation. Then Hopcroft, Motwani and Ullman is another book, Introduction to Automata Theory. This is also a good book. Lewis and Papadimitra, Elements of the Theory of Computation. One can see this thing, but mainly these first two books will suffice. And then you should look for lecture notes. So course information, I'll put everything in the Moodle only. So you should check, and homeworks also there. For example, I'll see this evaluation strategy. So there will be some assignments. So all those things will be put in the Moodle. And also be tentative schedule will be posted and maintained. Basically the time of the examination and other things after discussing with you. And at least you should check every day once the Moodle for the updates. Okay, let's see the evaluation components and weightages. So you are able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll have a mid-semester test. So that will be 1.5 hour test. Then weightage will be 30%. And then this assignments will be take-home assignments. So I list out certain problems. So you have to solve it and write either in handwritten, or maybe you can type in the using Word or some other LaTeX, and we'll ask you to upload in the Gradescope, because these quizzes will contain some problems which will be basically, I'll just point out in the class, but I may not now go through in details. So it will be good that you should solve these problems so that you will have some graphs over the subject. So then there will be quizzes. So maybe 5 quizzes will be there, 4 or 5 quizzes will be there. And then we'll have the major examination, that is 40%. So this is basically the evaluation components: 2 written tests, mid semester test and major test. Then this assignment will be take home assignments, 10%, and then there will be quizzes. So this is basically evaluation plan.
So they will be announced quizzes?
These will be announced quizzes, right?
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Because I think so. You have been called to come to the campus or no?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So possibly, if you come, then only it makes sense of this surprise quizzes. But I don't know, because of this pandemic and this situation. So we will not have any surprise quiz. We will announce it, and then you should come and then now write the quiz. All right.
Thank you, sir.
And because of this thing also, because of this pandemic situation, this assignment 10% take home assignment also is included. So this is especially, this is one of the fundamental course for your BTech or MTech program on math and computing. So what can be computed? That is the first question. And if it is computed, you can talk about computation only when you talk about a model of computation. So once you fix the model of computation, you can talk about whether it is problem is solvable or not. If it is solvable, then how if it is solvable, then you have to also see how efficiently it can be solved, right? Okay. And then we'll the TA will now tell you how to access the grade scope. If you have done in the earlier semester, you should have some exposure. Otherwise, we'll tell you how to access it. We'll map it, and assignment will be posted on Moodle. So I have already uploaded the course handout in the Moodle, so you can see. For example, this lecture also I'll put it on the Moodle today. All assignment must be done individually. So this 10 marks assignment, 10% assignment is there. This is for your understanding, so you should take it seriously and solve it. You are free to see the net and other things and other books. So it is take home assignment. So at the end of the course, you should have you should know how to solve these particular problems. It is not so it will be so we'll see that part, and then we'll have some tutorial sheets also, but that will not be assignment. Tutorial sheet will solve it in some of the lectures, but assignment will be you have to solve it and then upload it.
Sir,
Yes.
are there any prerequisite to this course, like anything we are supposed to know beforehand that we may revise or learn on our own?
Actually, you have some prerequisite. I think BTech and MTech. You have certain courses you need to do, right? Right.
Actually, I am an MSc student, so I don't know like
MSc
if we are
student, okay. So you know some programming?
basic, sir, like very basic program.
Okay. So in this course, you may not do the programming, but at least if you know mathematics, you should be able to understand. This is a mathematical course only. But it is basically, this course was there, or the kind of thing that we'll talk about, the kind of research, this kind of research were done before the existence of computer, right? So you don't
Yes, sir.
prepare, so you should be able to understand it. In case you have problem, just talk to me.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just give an overview of the lecture. In between, you should ask the questions, right? Okay. So today I'll discuss what we are going to do basically, and then possibly next lecture we'll start from the scratch. So introduction to computation and model of computation. So what are computations? What is computation? Computations are designed to solve problems. So it is like basically algorithms. And out of these computations, if you describe these computations in a programming language and to be executed in a computer, then you call it a program. And every problem is either computable or non-computable. So once you have the model of computation, then you can talk about whether it is solvable or not. So we'll see there is a universal model called Turing machine. So whatever the model you take, so let us take one problem, whether it is solvable or not. So is there any algorithm which find out whether a program outputs hello as its first 5 characters? So what is the meaning of, let us understand what the question is or the problem is. Now you have so many programs and it takes input. So P is a program and I is an input. So is it possible to write an algorithm, say A, which will take a program and input to that program? I will be an input to the program P, and P on the input I outputs hello as the first 5 characters. Then A of P comma I will be yes. That means if the program P for input I outputs hello as its first 5 characters, else A of P comma I is equal to no. Is the question clear? Is the problem clear?
Yes, sir.
So, for example, suppose as an example I'm telling. So suppose each of you have written some programs. All the students enroll for this particular course, and each program has some input I. So now for me, I want to check, is it possible for me to write a program or algorithm A which will take a student's program P and input to that particular program I, and it will output yes if that particular student's program on that particular input I outputs hello as its first 5 characters. Otherwise, I should check, I should say no. So that is basically the problem. Anybody who has not understood the problem? The MSc student?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
It's clear. PhD student, yes. Some PhD students are there. You are able to see?
Yes, sir, clear.
Yes? Anybody who has somebody can tell what the problem is. One MSc student can tell. Yes, please.
It's clear, sir. It's clear.
It's clear, right? Okay. So now, once if you say that it's clear, now we'll see, is it possible to, that means is it solvable? Is it possible to design such an algorithm A or a program P, A? So the answer is no. So let's see how to prove it. Answer is no, and then see. Let's see the proof. If possible, such an algorithm say A exists. So what A of Pi, if you see that problem definition, the algorithm A should do, take P and I, it should give the output yes, if P of I is equal to hello ... That means first 5 characters are hello, it produces a output, In that case, A of Pi should give me the output yes. Otherwise, if this is not hello, then my program A given P comma I will give the answer no. So if suppose such a program or algorithm A exists, then I consider another program B. So B also will take the input, same input as A, that is P and I, and P of I is equal to yes. If A of P comma I is equal to yes, it calls the program A. It runs B of P comma I runs the program A on P comma I, and A of P comma I gives yes, then B of P comma I, the algorithm B will output yes. If P of A of P comma I is equal to no, in that case, it will now output the string hello and then something else. So hello will be the first 5 characters, and then dot 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 some extra things X, Y, Z. You can, or only hello also is okay. So given A, now I can construct B. B is going to call the function A or program A on the same input, and depending on the output of A, I will give the output of B. So in the case of yes, A output yes, I will say yes. If A outputs no, then B will output hello. Up to this point, it is clear?
Yes.
Yes. So let us see what this A and B does. So if A exists, then B also will exist. B, now this I is an input. It can be anything. So now if you see for these programs A and B, P itself also the program, if you take a program P and the input also is same program. So that makes sense. So have you seen the program which will take a two programs as input or a program as input? In practice, have you seen something?
The compiler.
Compiler will take a program and it will compile you. So it is not unnatural that a program input to a program can be another program or maybe two programs. So when if I see this definition of A and B, in the place of I, if I substitute P, P of P comma P is equal to yes, if and only if A of P comma P is equal to yes, if and only if you see the definition of A, P of P is equal to hello dot dot dot. And similarly, B of P comma P is equal to hello dot dot dot, if and only if A of P comma P is equal to no. I have substituted this thing. If and only P of P not equal to hello. So you see the definition of A and B. So I can now conclude this. B of P comma P is equal to yes. Then P of P will output hello dot dot dot. P of P comma P is hello dot dot dot. Then P of P is not, it will output something different than, or a string which first 5 character will not be hello. It can be something different than that. Up to this is clear? Let me put in the screen so that you can see. If you just put it in the formula, the notation for B and A in this.
Hello, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what is the thinking process to come up with the algorithm B?
Okay. Now, if A is possible, then I will use A to design B, right? And then I'll write another program. We'll try to get a contradiction that this A, such a program A will never exist.
But sir, how do we think to come up to the algorithm be like B could be any algorithm in the world or any function.
Okay, different.
Yes, sir.
So what towards the end, when you talk about the Turing machine, we will now discuss several problems which are not computable. Is not the one, right? So today's lecture, just because we have not started anything, only to give an overview that okay, such a thing is possible. That means there are problems for which there is no algorithm to solve the particular problem, right?
Okay, sir.
So we'll see several, and will for mathematics point of view, I will tell an existence. Maybe towards the end of this lecture, I will tell that it's possible to solve the existence of lot of problems which are not computable. Wait for maybe next lecture, I will tell the existence. But here actually I am constructing or proving it by contradiction that it is not possible to solve this particular problem. What are the problem we say? That is, which will take a program and an input to a program, and output it will tell whether the hello will be the first 5 character of P given input I. So that is not there is no such, this problem cannot be solved using an algorithm. So that is the idea. So up to this is fine. So from A I have constructed B. From B I will construct another program C. So let C be an algorithm such that C of P, it will take only one input. C of P is equal to yes. It will invoke B. It will call B, and B in turns call A. So it will run the program B with the input P comma P. B is going to, now B has two output. Either B of P comma P is equal to yes, or it will produce hello dot dot dot. If B of P comma P is equal to yes, then C of P is equal to yes. B of P comma P is equal to hello, then it will produce hello. So this is basically output of B on P comma P, it will now output. So since program C invoke the program B or algorithm B, so if B exists, then C also exists. Now C is a valid input for C. So what will happen? Now in place of P, C is a program. So in place of P, I can now give C as input to the program C, and then see what happens. So for example, now C of C is equal to yes. Suppose if C of C is equal to yes, then I should get a contradiction. C of C can be, for example, if you see program C, the output can be what? Only two things, either yes or it will produce hello dot dot dot. Is this clear? So there are two possibilities for the program C. Whatever the input you give, P is a program, or P can be anything. Whatever the P is a program, so if you represent the computer, it will be a string. So C, a program will take a string, a sequence of characters say, and depending on that, now it will give yes or it will give hello. So these are the two possible outputs of C. So if I run C with the input C, if the output is yes, then what will happen? C, if you see the C of P is equal to yes, if B of P comma P is equal to yes. So in that case, B of C comma C is equal to yes. B of C comma C, B program B will call program A. So in that case, algorithm A given input C comma C, it will give yes. And this implies B of C comma C is equal to yes. So that is already there, right?
Yes.
Right. No, B. So there is a B of C comma C is yes. Is it? So I I should say that C of C is.
So can you show the formulation of B again?
Okay, just a minute. I think I have to show in one slide. So let us see this thing. Somewhere I have to write, or because it is not coming one screen. Just a minute. So I will let me see if I can show you in one slide a program. C of C is equal to yes, B of C comma C is equal to yes, B of C comma C is equal to yes, A of C comma C is equal to yes, A of C comma C is equal to yes, just a minute, just 1 minute. I'm just taking another slide maybe. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. So now this is a Word file. So this, I think all the programs will be in single this thing. Now you just see this A, you are able to see? The slides are visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now A, B, C already you know. Just I substitute C of C is equal to S. So what is the value of P? What is the value of P over here?
C.
If C of C is equal to S, now see the definition of C. C of P is equal to S if B of P comma P is equal to S. So B of, instead of P I can write C, B of C comma C is equal to S. Right? So now you come to the definition of B. B of P comma I is equal to S. So what is the value of P? P and I both are C. P and I both are C. So P of C comma C is equal to S is provided A of C comma C is equal to S. A of C comma C is equal to S. Now A of C comma C is equal to S. So P is equal to C and I is equal to C. So C of C is equal to hello. Up to this point is it clear or no?
Yes, sir.
So just I have substituted. So you write A, B and C. From A I have written B. Using B I have written C. Now see output of C on any input P is either yes or hello. So instead of P I am taking C. So if I put C, either the answer will be yes or hello dot dot dot. In case this answer is yes on input C, okay, C of C is equal to yes. If that is the case, then just you substitute C of C is equal to yes. If B of C comma C is equal to yes, B and then go to the definition of B. B of C comma P comma C is equal to yes. If A of P comma I is equal to yes, that means A of C comma C is equal to yes. Go to the definition of A comma P of I is equal to yes if P of I is equal to hello. That means C of C is equal to hello dot dot. So I get a contradiction because C of C is equal to yes if and only if C of C is equal to hello. So in this particular case, I am getting a contradiction. Up to this point is fine. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So similarly, suppose C of C, the other possibility is hello. If that is the case, you just substitute B of C comma C is equal to hello. And if you go back to the B comma B is hello, then A of C comma C is equal to no. A of C comma C is no. A of C comma C is no. C of C is not hello. So you get C of C not equal to hello. So in that case also you are getting a contradiction. So now, so the algorithm A for algorithm C, I'm getting a contradiction. So algorithm C cannot exist. And now C uses B, so B also will not exist because B exists, then C will exist. And B exists if and only if A exists, so therefore A cannot exist. Therefore, there is no algorithm that can find whether program on any input outputs hello as its first five characters. Right?
Yes.
So is this clear? Yes or no? You just ask me. You don't
Yes.
ask me how this program was designed. What is the thought process in designing that? It was at least this is the first problem which was shown to be, or similar problem shown to be non-computable on any of the computing model. Right. So when you talk about Turing machines, there is something called diagonalization principle, using which you can now construct that given one thing, then we can, based on that, we take the reverse. Right. You just see from that program we have constructed another program. If you see the from A, I have taken the first input yes, and then second is hello. So yes and no. In this case, do you know a of p comma I is equal to yes, and a of p comma I is equal to no. Just on no, in no yes I put yes, and no I put hello. Right. So just I change it, and similarly C, from B I constructed another program C. So if it is yes, then yes, and then hello, B of p comma p is hello, then I put as it is. So output of B on p comma p, I put this as a C. So only trick as A and B, that is the diagonal kind of thing. For example, here yes and no cases, one is yes I take, and the other is hello. In the case of no hello, I put hello. It's the opposite some kind of thing. Once A is given, then you construct B, and C is basically B on the same input p comma p. And then I show that okay, and now we get a contradiction in both the cases, both the output of C. So hence, such a program will not exist. So this problem cannot be solved.
Sir, we are assuming that the program can take any input. And that's an assumption that we are working with.
Yes. Please tell. Yes, Deepak.
Sir, the programs that we are taking, we are on assumption we are doing this, that the program can take any input, even other programs.
Program, another program. So anything, any program is basically we'll see later on when you start the course. We'll see that the program, how do you type? You type on the computer. What is the program? So all the typeable character, the character. So it is a string. If you take all the characters on the keyboard as a set, I call that is alphabet, and a program is a string over that particular alphabet. It can be anything.
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? For example, compiler, it is not that you have to give a valid program. You anything you put it, any file you put in and try to compile it, it will give you error, isn't it?
Yes, sir. But sir, as we have,
yes, yes, please.
As you have taken C to be an algorithm and then put it as input, so C.
Yeah.
So we are assuming that C can be converted into a program.
Yeah. This is a program. So it is basically ABCR program, basically. A string over some alphabet.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is this is basically when you talk about Turing machine, we'll talk about all those things, computability. So we are going in the reverse order. We'll talk about the model, and that model, what problem can be solved, what cannot be solved. So we'll see automata theory. We'll find a lot of problems which cannot be solved. So we'll see that. But now, finally, we'll see that the universal model is Turing machine, which is basically any computer can be simulated by a Turing machine. So if you cannot solve in Turing machine, then you cannot solve in any of the computer. The computer can be now or in future also it is going to be there. Then using that you cannot solve it. So that is basically the idea. Okay. Fine. So at least we know one example of a program which cannot be computed. We have a problem which cannot be computed. So okay, so after that we are going to see something called model of computation. And what are the models that we are going to see? That this is the mathematical model of computers or computing devices. So this is basically automata. Then we'll talk about push down automata, then Turing machine. So these are the three models that we talk about in this particular course. You are able to see the slides? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is an automata? What is automata theory? The study of abstract computing devices or machines. And the singular form of automata is automaton. This is an abstract computing device. And a device need not be a physical hardware. For example, anything which can compute is a computer. So it can be a program. So a mathematical description, and if you give the input, it will give the output. So that's why it is a computing device. It need not be a physical device, physical hardware, right? The fundamental question in computer science, find out what different models of machines can do and cannot do. So we'll see the three different models, and we'll see what are the limitations and what are the things that they can do. So this is basically theory of computation, and then we talk about computability, whether it is solvable or not solvable, and then we talk about the complexity. So these three parts, the model of computations, and on that, once the model of computation is described, after that we discuss about computability and complexity on that particular model. So if you see this Alan Turing, this is the father of modern computer science, and he is an English mathematician, studied abstract machines called Turing machines even before computers existed. And now the Church-Turing thesis that we'll discuss toward the end of the course, which states that if you cannot solve a problem using Turing machine, then whatever powerful computer you have, you cannot solve that particular problem. So this is a thesis. There is no proof to it. People believe that this is the case. That means Turing machine is the ultimate model of most powerful computer as far as computability is concerned. So we'll talk about that. And if you see some historical perspective, in 1930, Alan Turing studied Turing machines, and this one problem is the halting problem. If you see the earlier problem that we discussed, the halting problem also is not decidable. That means it is not solvable. What is that? So for example, suppose I have given you assignments, and everybody has written programs. So 60 students, 90 students are there, 90 programs have been written, and each program will take an input. So now I don't want to spend time in checking your code. So is it possible for me to write a program which will take your program and input to your program as input to my program, and tell whether your program on that particular input will stop, will halt, or will get into infinite loop? That means will not halt. So that problem is halting problem. If you see the problem that we discussed, only it will give yes or no. Basically, if your program is going to give me hello in the first 5 characters, then my program will give me yes, otherwise no. But if you see the halting problem, is it possible to write a program which will take another program and input to your program, and tell your program when you run on that input will halt or not halt? So we'll discuss this problem later on, and the proof will be similar that we discussed. This halting problem was the first problem which was shown to be undecidable or not computable on Turing machine. So we'll talk about this decidability and halting problem was studied in 1930 when even computers were not available. And 40s and 50s, in between, finite automata machines were studied. And then Chomsky proposes Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages. So we'll see that the set of strings, what is the language, we'll see. The set of strings accepted by a particular finite automata will form a particular language called regular language. So the language, formal language, can be have been classified by Chomsky. So that is called Chomsky hierarchy for formal languages, that came in 1940 to 50. And around 1969, that Cook introduced the intractable problems called NP-hard problems. And these are the problems. This means we'll see, this is technically, these are hard problems in the sense that unless there is a conjecture called P is not equal to NP, if the conjecture is not unless P is equal to NP, the NP hard problem cannot be solved in polynomial time. So we'll talk about this hard problem when you talk about Turing machines, and basically in the algorithm course, basically you will see further what is NP hard, NP complete problems. But this is the formal definitions and everything we'll give in this particular course. And then modern computer science, compiler and everything came in 1970s, and this is how it evolves. So what are languages? Let's see. I'll discuss this thing when in the second lecture next week, this week. But let me give an overview. An alphabet is a finite set of symbols. For example, it can be 0, 1, or it can be all the characters that you see in the keyboard. So that is alphabet, right? For example, A to Z, or A to small case Z, capital A to capital Z, space, numbers, bracket, whatever you can see in the keyboard, I can take that. That is a finite set. I can talk about alphabet. But whatever you take, when you put in the computer, finally it will be converted into zeros and ones. So whatever program you type, if you store in a computer, it will be a sequence of zeros and ones. So most of the cases we will see our alphabet consists of two symbols, 0 and 1. If you take several such symbols, one after the other, that is called a string, and it is called word, or it is called sentences, are strings of symbols. So sentences or strings of symbols, those are called words. And language is a set of sentences or collection of words, collection of strings over an alphabet. So a language is a collection of sentences of finite length, all constructed from a finite alphabet of symbols. So this is a formal language. So now English and other things are natural language. So this is formal language. So we'll see what it is in detail. So this language. So now have you understood what is a language? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello? So C language, C programming language, can it be considered like this? Is a collection of strings? Yes or no? Yes or no? What is a C program? Suppose if you take a C programming language, you take it and write a complete program. So how do you type? You type the keys, right? So if my alphabet is set of all character which are there, printable character of the screen, the keyboard, then a C program is a string over that particular alphabet. So collection of all C programs I collected. This will be of finite length only. So it is a finite set of strings, set of finite strings over an alphabet. So if you see any programming language will fit into this as a language. So these are formal languages. Is this clear?
So C program is a sentence.
So every C program is a sentence in that language, C programming language. The languages of all C programs. Okay. All right. So this language can be generated, or whether the language syntactically correct or not, I can check with the grammar. A grammar can be regarded as a device that enumerates the sentences of a language, nothing more or nothing less. So for example, in the left hand side, you see a grammar is a finite list of rules defining a language. For example, here S is the start symbol. S goes to 0A, and A and B are two such symbols. A goes to 1A, or A goes to 0B. Now B goes to 1B, B goes to 0 F, and then F goes to this epsilon, that is null strings. So this ends. So for example, if I want to generate 0 1 0 0 1 0 0, you see the grammar which is given in the left hand side, 0 1 0 0, can it be generated by this grammar?
Sorry, sir. Can you please repeat what did you say the grammar was?
For example, take simple case 0 0 0, 3 zeros. Can this grammar generate this string 0 0 0? You have to start with S symbol. Start and then apply the production. These are called production rules.
SABF.
For example, S goes to 0A, A goes to 0B. That means A, I can replace 0B. How many zeros I can have? 2 zeros. And then B goes to 0F. So 3 0 and F goes to null string. So I will end up with 0 0 0. So I will apply this rule first. S goes to 0A, then A goes to 0B, then B goes to 0F, and F goes to epsilon. So using these rules, I can generate 0 0 0. But for example, certain strings cannot be generated. Can I can you show that 1 1 can be generated or not using this grammar? 2 1s, 1 and 1.
No, sir.
No, because the starting rule is S0A. So 0 is the starting of every string. So starting with 1, nothing will be generated. So this grammar will never generate starting a string starting with 1. So the grammar will generate all these strings which will form the language. So given a language, I can generate a grammar. Given a grammar, I can have a language. The grammar will produce or generate all the strings, all the sentences of the language. So we'll study this thing. Now don't worry right now. We'll see each one in detail. But I am telling you an overview what we are going to study. Right? And then this Chomsky, this is basically the hierarchy. So we are now in the course, we'll talk about DFA. We'll talk about PDA, push down automata. This DFA is deterministic finite automata. PDA is now push down automata. This LBA is linear bounded automata, and this TM is Turing machine. So this set of this machine will recognize a language DFA, and that is basically the regular languages. It will be contained in another set of language called context-free language, which can be recognized by PDA. So any context-sensitive language, if you give and ask the PDA to accept it, the PDA will not be able to accept it. So in that case, you have to go for another model called LBA, but recursively enumerable language will be accepted by Turing machine. So regular language is a subclass of context-free language, which is a subclass of context-sensitive language, which is a subclass of recursively enumerable language. And machine-wise also DFA is a subset of PDA, is a subset of LBA and TM. It is basically most powerful is the Turing machine. And now we'll see the grammar generating this language also we'll see, right, in this particular course. So, so I have some timeline. Okay, few more minutes. Okay, so let's see. I'll just repeat this thing in the next lecture also. The alphabet is a finite non-empty set of symbols. Right, I can take finite non-empty set of symbols, and binary alphabet is basically 0 1. You can take all lowercase letter A, B, C up to Z, or alphanumeric A to Z, capital A to Z, 0 to 9, DNA molecules letter A, C, G, T. This is the case. So any DNA sequence will be a string consisting of A, C, G, T, and the length of the string will also be very high. So the alphabet is a finite non-empty set of symbols. Is this clear? And this is the example. So most of the time we will be talking about 0, 1 or AB. So these are the strings or the alphabet that we'll be discussing, but you can take any finite non-empty set as the alphabet. Is this clear? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the alphabet. Alphabet, I can construct the string over the alphabet. For example, a string or word is a finite sequence of symbols chosen from this sigma. Sigma is an alphabet. Empty string is epsilon, and length of the string is denoted by mod of W. W is a word or string, is equal to the number of non-epsilon characters in the string. For example, I can take over the sigma is equal to 0, 1, I take x is equal to 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. I can take this thing, so 2 plus 2 plus 2, 6. So length of x is equal to 6. But x also can be written as 0, 1, then epsilon, that is a non-string, 0, epsilon, 1, epsilon, 0, 0, and epsilon. That also is possible to write, but the epsilon is a non-string. There is nothing. So still the length will be what? Length is equal to 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The epsilon, length of epsilon is 0. Right? So I can now have some certain operation on the string. X is another string and y another string. So I write x followed by y. I call this operation is concatenation. So x followed by y. So length of xy will be length of x plus length of y. So now in the previous slides I defined what is an alphabet. Now I have defined what is a string. String is also called word. It's a finite sequence of symbol. It's not, remember, it is not an infinite thing. It is a finite string. Finite string, or this is called word. A string or word is a finite sequence of symbols. It is also called a sentence. It is clear? So I have defined the alphabet and defined the string. And string, there is one important thing called non-string or empty string, and that is denoted as epsilon, and length of the empty string is 0, and the cardinality or the these 2 bars that I use for the length of the symbol, length of the. Okay, sigma be an alphabet. The sigma k is a set of all string of length k. So, and then so this is the notation. I consider all strings of length k over sigma, that is denoted as sigma k, sigma power k, and sigma star is equal to sigma 0 union sigma 1 union sigma 2 union this thing, all dot dot dot. So union 0 to infinity sigma I. So this is a sigma star, and sigma plus is only non-string is not there, length 1, length 2, length 3 and other things. Now tell me, sigma is a finite set of alphabets, and sigma star is equal to epsilon sigma 0 union sigma 1 union sigma 2 dot 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 union dot dot. It goes. So is sigma star countable?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Union of countable sets.
A countable union of countable set, because each sigma I is finite. Each string in the sigma I is consists of all string of length I, and since you have got finite alphabet set, so sigma I has at the most how many strings? So sigma has got 10 elements, so 10 raised to power I elements will be there in sigma raised to power I. So this is finite, hence countable. Countable union of countable set is countable, hence sigma star is countable. Right? So the set of strings, so sigma star is all possible strings over sigma, isn't it? Right?
Yes, sir. So sigma 0 will contain only the null string.
Yeah, null string.
Okay.
Right. And sigma plus is excluding null string. That means sigma star minus the null string. The language is said to be a language or alphabet if L is a subset of sigma star. So sigma star, I have seen this thing. Any subset of this is a language. So this is because sigma star is a set of all strings, all possible length including 0 over the alphabet. So some collection of string is called a language. So now the sigma star is countable. So how many strings are possible? How many languages are possible? How many subsets are there?
Uncountable.
Uncountable. 2 raised to power LF naught, right? So if you see the sigma star, so this will be cardinality of the natural number, is a countable set. So LF naught and 2 raised to power LF naught is basically the cardinality of this. So this set of all languages is uncountable, right? So for example, L be the language of all string consisting of n zeros followed by n ones. So this epsilon, that is 0, 0, 0 and 0, 1 is epsilon. Then 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. So n string means, so this is basically L. Let L be the language of all string with equal number of zeros and ones. So epsilon 0, 1, 1, 0. That means only 1 0, 2 zeros, 2 ones means it can be in any of the things and dot dot dot. So this is called canonical ordering of the language, because once you describe it, you can enumerate all the strings of the language. Definition: phi denotes the empty language, because since every subset of sigma star is a language, phi is a subset, so phi is also a empty languages. So now you just see this part. The L is equal to consisting of the null string. Is L equal to phi? Yes or no? The last question. Can you see the last question in the slide?
Yes, sir. We can see.
So is L equal to phi? L consisting of a single string, that is a null string. Is L equal to phi? No.
No, sir, because L contains a string.
I has no string, but L has a single string that is called epsilon. Right? Okay.
Yes.
So the membership problem, given a
sir,
string.
When we concatenate 2 epsilons, do we get a single epsilon? Can we say that?
Yes. Something. If you concatenate 2 epsilon, you will get a single epsilon.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So this is the main problem that we'll be dealing with. So given a string W belongs to sigma star, so we choose one alphabet sigma, and you take any string, and a language L is a subset of sigma star. So decide whether or not W belongs to L. So is it possible to write a program or on a particular model, for example, automata, DFA, deterministic finite automata, is it possible to write a program which will now decide whether W belongs to this language or not? So you will have a description of the language L. So L is a subset of sigma star, so it can be defined. You can enumerate all the strings of L, or you can have a defining property, or you will have, we'll see different way to represent L. And given a string of sigma star, we need to decide whether W belongs to L or not. So this is called membership problem for languages. So we'll see many decision problems that we'll see can be recasted as membership problem in languages. So for example, W is equal to 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1. And is W belong to the language of string with equal number of zeros and ones? The answer is yes or no?
Yes.
Answer is yes. So suppose this language is given, so we'll now see, once we define automata, so we have to now define a logic or program. That program will take any such string with equal number of 0 and 1, whatever you give. If that is the case, it will accept, otherwise it will not accept. So now epsilon belongs to this language or not? Null string belongs to this language or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it belongs to this particular language, right? So that means what you have seen, for example, if you see, we have defined what is alphabet, I define what is a string, define the power notation, this sigma star and sigma plus sigma k, and language is subset of sigma star, and set of all languages is uncountable, right? And now the main problem is language membership problem and language. So this is the problem that we are going to solve. So a language is given over an alphabet sigma, and a string is given. So whatever string of this language it should accept, the machine should accept. If the string is not in the language, it should reject. So that is what we have to design such a machine. So when we talk about automata, so we will see how to solve this particular problem. So what kind of languages, for what kind of languages the membership problem can be solved using a automata. That is what the thing we will discuss in the next class. I'll repeat this thing, the last few slides again in the, from starting from here, we'll recall it, and then we'll now define what is automata, and then we'll try to solve this particular problem for simple languages, and then see how to go about it. And these applications, there are a lot of applications. This is one of the important courses. Wherever logic and other things are there, you need to automata theory will be applicable. Some of the applications are software for designing and checking the behavior of digital circuits, lexical analyzer or a tipper, for example, and software for scanning large bodies of text, for pattern finding, software for verifying systems of all types that have a finite number of states, stock markets, transaction, communication, network protocol. So wide variety of applications are there. So right now you don't worry, maybe we'll have some reading assignment, and of course the BTech people will know many of the things very quickly, but the other kind of assignment will be given to MSc and PhD student, right? So now this is introduction. I have uploaded the tutorial, the course handout in the Moodle. Now you should log in and then take the course handout, and these two lectures also I will now upload tonight. So tomorrow you can now download all the lectures. All right? Yes?
Yes, sir.
You have any now question to ask now? I have just almost time is up, right? So Friday we are going to talk about this alphabet, language, string, languages, and then we talk about automata, and then we'll design small programs. Those are automata which will now recognize a particular language. All right. Next.
So what is the audit policy?
Yes.
Audit.
Okay. So audit policy will be 40 marks passing mark.
Okay.
Course audit policy. So for many students it is compulsory course. Only MSc student that you can, if you have taken as elective, you can now see this audit policy. Right. Now time is there. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Should we stop now?
Yes, sir.
So next class, I think now Shipser book is available. The copy you can find in the net also. You can download or you can have the book. And these two lectures I'll put in the Moodle, and course handout you go through. You download and you have a copy of that. And next lecture we'll discuss.